mute, whatever that is. We will call tonight's 4B meeting together to order at 5:32 p.m. All members present except Chase, Shatter, and Cash. We'll open a public forum. The 4B Board of Directors invites citizens to address the board on any matter, including items on the agenda, except public hearings that are included in the agenda. Comments related to the public hearings will be heard when the specific hearing starts. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board is not permitted to take any action or discuss items listed on the agenda. The board may choose to place the item on a future agenda item. Would anybody like to speak during the public forum? Anybody online? We'll close the public forum at 5. We'll close the public forum at 5:34 p.m. Next item is recognitions.
Okay. I just wanted to give you an update. I think we communicated via email, but we did close on the Rails to Trails properties. So huge undertaking by this board and many years of work by several people in the community, including Mr. Erik Wyse. So it was exciting. We went down together and signed the paperwork, and already also have executed our right-of-way or our easement agreement with Encore, which was kind of the next step just to make sure that we could cross over under the power lines. So everything's moving forward as we had planned. So very exciting. But I did want to, just in recognition of all the work that Mr. Wyse has done over the years, we wanted to recognize him. And we have this in appreciation of all of your hard work on the Rails to Trails property, Erik Wyse. And this is actually one segment of the trail that's depicted in this certificate. So we can just have Mr. Wyse come down. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you. That's very much appreciated. And thank you to everybody on 4B and city staff and town staff, I should say, and all the volunteers that have helped make that project a reality. We look forward to seeing it move forward into fruition. So thank you. Next is agenda item 2, discuss, consider, and approve the minutes from the June 8, 2021 board meeting. Everybody have a chance to review?
I reviewed. I didn't have any questions.
We get a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 8th, 2021.
Motion made by member Anthony, seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. We'll move on to agenda item 3, discuss, consider, and approve the June 2021 financial reporting and related items. Hand over to member Bradford.
All right, thank you. So, so following up on the Rails to Trails conversation, we now have that reflected in our in our financial statements for the month of June, the expenditure for the close of the property. So that's good to see that push through. So we did have monthly expenses of $510,021.87 and revenues of $84,523. Our other expenses for the month were our routine payroll and contracted items, and some planning expenses and some just park repairs per our budget. And so our end of month fund balance was $2,804,941. And I was just checking. Okay, so the other items are another agenda item, so I will not go into those. Let's see. And then our sales tax, of course, looking back at April, was substantially higher than it was in the previous year, which would make sense since last year was a COVID year and everything was shut down. So it's good to see that things are back up. And I didn't have any questions for staff on our normal financials. We'll review some other items in the next agenda item.
I'd like to just point out the sales tax was up year over year for the last, this would be the fourth year. So this was the strongest year out of the last four. And it's been trending that way the last couple of months that it's been picking up steam, so that's good news. Any questions on the finances? A motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve June 2021 financial reporting and related items.
Motion made by member Nair, seconded by member Anthony. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. On to item number 4, discuss, consider, and approve the proposed amended 2021-2022 fiscal year budget.
I'll let staff review this since it looks like those changes came from some of your meetings.
Okay. Quickly, before I go into that, I wanted to just take a minute to introduce a new member of the finance team, and that is Sherry Haynes. She is coming on board, and she is taking Liz Hopkins' place. Liz has retired, and Sherry comes to us from the city of Mesquite, and we're super excited to have her join the team.
Welcome aboard.
Okay. The update to the 2021-2022 proposed budget is next. This is a budget that the 4B board approved, and we presented at last month's meeting on June the 8th. Since that time, we have received some re-rate information in from TML and TMRS. Those changes have resulted in the re-rate and the TML charges resulted in a decrease of 3.21%. The re-rate from TMRS resulted in a decrease of 0.21%. Because of the 4B transfer into the general fund in support of the Parks Department, the TML and TMRS re-rates also caused a decrease to that budget, which resulted in a decrease to the general fund, the transfer into the general fund of $2,244. Overall, from the budget that was presented last month to today, it's an overall decrease to your expenses of $3,569. The next page after that just has the detail on the individual line items. Then in addition to that, we had some supplementals. We submitted 2 supplementals last month. One was for the part-time administrative assistant, and also a merit increase for the EDC director. Those 2 items were presented last month and they were approved. This month we have a new item that we would like to bring before the board, and that is to for a share of the cost for a feasibility study for the community rec center and library facility. It's a cost that's estimated to be about $50,000, with general fund contributing 25% of that cost, and proposed 4B contribution of 75% or $37,500. So these supplementals are separate from the proposed budget. So these are not included in those numbers. So if you were to approve all of the supplementals, that would be a total increase to your expenses of $54,825.
And so I'm assuming that means we would have to increase the budget, like under planning, from 50,000 to 100,000 to accommodate, or not 100,000, but 87.5 to accommodate that supplemental.
That's correct. And then your labor and benefits category would increase by $17,325 plus the merit increase amount.
I guess my only question is, I read in the notes here that this particular project, or not project, I guess it is project, you know, it was like number 3 on the capital improvement plan for the town. So it's an important item, it sounds like. I'm curious to know, though, how many of these different planning things we have going on all at one time, and how can we realistically, it just seems like there should be some staggering, but I just don't have a full picture, I guess, of all the different ones that are going on and what the stages are.
So and we'd be happy to bring at the next meeting a copy of the capital improvement plan so that we have a whole citizens committee that makes recommendations into the capital improvement plan. It was actually last year that it was ranked the #1 project. And then our staff's recommendation was to form a citizen committee to look just at this project. And you guys were represented on that committee by Mr. Wyse. And that committee then got to a particular point where they are recommending that we move forward with the project. It will likely go to a bond election. And so this study that's happening right now that we're proposing would prepare for that bond election, really do a scope, possible location, kind of included in what could, you know, for different pricing levels, what is reasonable to expect for programming, that type of thing. What's the operational impact going to be? So I think in the capital improvement plan, you will see that staggering. But typically you see our projects kind of unfold over a 3-year period. Kind of the first year is like a scoping. Remember with the fire station, the first year we hired the architect to do a location assessment. We got the funding in place. And then the second year we hire the architect. And then the third year we start building. So that's kind of how you see them unfolding. And I think that's why it feels like there's so much overlap, because you are staggering all of those steps. Pretty much anything that we build, like all of our drainage projects, take at least a year to design. So you do see us getting pretty far ahead to get design in place so that we're ready when the funding becomes available. Does that help a little bit?
No, it does. I didn't mean for you to have to explain the whole concept. I appreciate it, but I do get that. I guess I was more of specifically which ones have 4B already set aside funds for, because we do have the downtown vision study, we've got the barn, now this one, and there may be 1 or 2 other ones in there. So yeah, so I was just curious to know of all the ones that 4B has already set aside money for, that we're already like paying. It would just be nice to just kind of have a recap of that at some point.
We can absolutely do that. I mean, the barn is part of the fire department project, and we are in design right now and trying to figure out how we can back into the budget. We actually in council last night had a work session looking at different options, just trying to see where we could head with it. So it's actively being worked on. The downtown.
I was going to add about the. Sorry, I was going to add up on the downtown project. We're nearing the end of the visioning phase of that. We've had all of the community input. We're having the final meeting with the advisory committee next week, and we'll probably present the findings to council sometime in August or September, and then we'll have the vision established. Then it's about going out and hopefully finding a development partner to work with us. From an interesting standpoint, from a timing perspective, some of the ideas that have been floated is potentially including this facility in the downtown area. So there's actually some synergy there. It's a good time to go ahead and get at least some idea of what we're talking about from a facility, so that if we do want to include that in the downtown area, we have some idea of what we're talking about. So from a timing perspective, now is a good time to start to nail down some details.
And then on those master plans, you know, your primary master plan was completed, and I think Burton will give you an update on that later. But the sub plans, we actually signed the contract this week, so they're progressing along as well. So
I guess I was curious too, just a general idea of what the recreational center would include. I don't know, maybe you can elaborate
well,
on
that's
that.
part of this proposal here, is to try to narrow it down, because some of the proposals are pretty broad. So the ideas that what everybody wants are large, and then you got to bring it into what's.
But for it to
gonna
rank
work for
number
some.
3, I would think there's some sort of consensus on what it needs
Yeah.
to include, or what we want to include.
So the
Get into
committee
that. But it was
talked about,
pool and library and indoor rec center, I mean, all the, fitness and rooms that people can reserve to do different events and things like that. So it's,
and the library is not something that you all can fund, which is
Right.
why you see
why
that
it's 25,
cost split.
75.
Yeah, exactly. And we did go to the Friends of the Library Board and ask them to fund. They weren't willing to do that at this time, but if we move forward with the project, we will reapproach them for construction costs and see if they're willing to do that. But yeah, the committee looked at all sorts of different best practices. So everyone was charged during one meeting to bring suggestions of best practices, and we reviewed those as a team. And we looked at options for pools and programming rooms and workout facilities, and a lot of different aspects of programs like this, and then how those all can work together and co-locate the library with the rec center and the community center. So he's correct that that's kind of where we'll go from here with this consultant. But we had many ideas presented by the committee, and I think they were all really great and really showed the need in the community.
And then it would be paid for by the bond. It wouldn't come back to 4B to fund. I imagine it would be a huge project.
Yeah, I think right now
Expensive.
that's the discussion, is that if this study, warrants it, then it would go to council to vote to determine to take it to a bond election, because it's not something that would be eligible for other sources of funding. So it would be a community vote if they wanted to do that.
Yeah, I just have so many questions, because I do kind of like Sarah was saying, you think, oh, what else is floating out there? And we already have so many things on our plate, and really a kind of limited amount of money at this point. So then after this is done, would the idea be that then we do another study for design work? That would be the path, and 4B would pay for part of that too?
Again, none of this is decided, but my thought would be that if the design, if this study said, yes, we should move forward with it, and then the council voted to move forward with it, that when the bond would include the design cost. So I personally would not see that coming back to 4B. I would see that being part of the bond cost. This would be part of the whole project.
One question for me, this is just approving it within the budget. So then I guess next meeting we would approve it as a project. Yeah. Any other questions on the proposed budget, including amendments or supplementals? So we take action on this tonight, since it's the second time we've.
Yes, please. I believe 4B has to approve their budget 60 days prior to the end of the year, fiscal year.
Right. So we Can you get a motion to approve with the new supplementals?
Are we ready for that? Everyone seems so quiet. I make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 proposed budget, including the additional supplementals.
Motion made by member Anthony. Seconded by member Bradford. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And the next item is discuss, consider updates on ongoing projects. Nice thing is we had a new addition to the agenda, so it's the 26th and 27th page. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity at the very back of the binder to review. Burton.
Did you all have any questions on the updates?
I really like the layout, I just have to say, and I like getting it all in a list ahead of time, rather than taking up so much time during the meeting. So that's good.
So I was not aware, I was just curious about, there's a proposed O'Reilly's on Collins. Where would that be?
So yeah, I brought that up as well, and it's south of the hospital. And it's been on the, I guess, the town's agendas and things outside of 4B, but it doesn't have anything to do with 4B from a funding standpoint, so we hadn't discussed it. But yes, so there's an O'Reilly's coming in on Collins south of the hospital. But 10,000 square feet of retail south of that, that was also exciting. So is that, I guess, across from like the pet grooming place and the A-Team automotive and everything?
Yeah, so it's the O'Reilly's would be at the southwest corner of Collins and Wheatfield Drive.
That's a little bit farther, so I'd say.
Yeah. And then the retail center would be just to the south of the O'Reilly site.
Was that right on the border, I guess, before
Yeah, it's that little triangular property that's just between kind of Collins, Wheatfield, and then the border with Mesquite.
One question, statement, I guess, is so we have the Morton building came in at 900,000 and looking at other alternatives, I guess, because that's 100% more than we were thinking originally. So
Waiting a couple of years.
yes. And JD, thanks for all the improvements that you've been working on. You know, many of these we've talked about, many of them we haven't. So I'm glad to see that the fields are looking nice and everything. So thanks. Any other items on or discussion on that? No.
Oh, so did y'all figure out if that was really all storm related that messed up the batting cage, or was there any vandalism in like that last big storm?
I think it was storm related because it pulled that turf up, and when it rolled that turf up, I think it was storm related when it rolled that turf up and caught it against those pipes. Those pipes are just hollow aluminum. It just bent them up and it turned into a big giant sail, basically, and the wind caught it. And the more the wind beat on it, the worse it got bent. I mean, that net weighs 1,200 pounds. So, I mean, someone would really have to crawl on that and lean on it in order to get it to bend. But that turf's twice as much as the net. You know, so if you pinned it up against those pipes with wind, it would probably bend it pretty good. So we've got a plan to replace that. We're going to do it in-house. We're not going to go buy a new batting cage frame or anything. We get it all fixed before they start fall ball.
We'll move on to item number 6, discuss, consider presentation from a proposed wedding and event venue located in the southwest corner of US Highway 80 and South Paschall Paschall Rd. Hello.
I'm Angie Navarro, and I have done this before with y'all. In 2016, I started the project to build the venue on the same property. 3 years later, an investor backed out last minute. It was just kind of a weird thing. Which, when COVID came, I was kind of thankful that we had not built a big venue and tried to open during COVID. So we sold the land. My investor did, and the Tullises bought it. And I guess in November, I was approached by Ben Tullis if I was still interested in building a wedding venue. And I said yes, because that's the only property I've ever really thought was the perfect place. So that being said, we talked and we've done plans, and he's building his office building on the front part. And then basically my building is going to be exactly where it was going to be before. So we're looking at building it's 12,500 to 13,000 square foot building. Do you have the layout, Burton? Yes. No, that's the plat. Do you want to talk about that first? It doesn't matter. I'm free reign here. I have no notes. I have no nothing. So you can ask me anything you want to. I do better for my brain sometimes. Yes, the plat will be, our building will be below his. We will share entrances off of Paschall, and then there'll be an additional entrance. There'll be 2 entrances off of Paschall. We can't do the entrance off of 80 anymore because of the construction they're going to do on 80 in a few years or something. So that's fine. Like I said, it'll be a 12,500 to 13,000 square foot building. It'll have a full reception area. It'll have a full chapel area. I am a caterer and do weddings. I've done this for 30 years. We will have a full catering kitchen where we will do the cooking. So we'll have that on staff. We will also have a floral shop, not per se to sell the people out here to compete with the floral people, because I'm good friends with Kathy, but to do the weddings that we need done. And the girl that's coming in to rent that space for me, I've worked with a long time, and she already has a really good business of her own. So that I think will be extra income to the building. So we could do up to 3 weddings a weekend, and we only do 1 big event a day. So the income for y'all, I know we've asked this question before, the actual rental of the building is not sales taxable, but everything else, the food, the catering, the flowers, we will have tons of rental stuff that they can rent to use at their weddings. All of that stuff is. So there will be sales tax money coming in, not just not on the building, which I think it's kind of different, but I've researched it big time, so I know for sure I'm correct on that one. So like I said, we're just going to, we're going to have an outside wedding space also. I have not truly picked that space yet because I kind of need to go out there and stand. It's kind of one of those things I need to see where the trees actually are, because I don't want to cut any extra trees down. We don't have to. That's, okay, he's showing you. There it is. So we'll have a chapel that'll seat 216 people. The windows at the end of the chapel will be looking out into the forest. I don't know if you're familiar with that piece of property or not, but it just looks into forest. So that'll just be a beautiful setting. It's just going to be all glass, and it'll just look out into that. Then this will be the reception area where all the tables, the dance floor, there's a DJ place. We have a catering spot, a bar, everything built in. We have a very nice bridal suite. We have a groom's cave, I think we're calling it. It's out kind of separated. Keep the boys kind of away from everybody else during the wedding process, because they're not always a whole lot of fun. And then we have our kitchen and our floral and our design. So we've been working on this building for probably 2 months now. And I think we finally got it tweaked just the way we need it. It should flow really well. Like I said, I've been in the business for 30 years. I've been at tons of venues. And it's kind of like I know what works and what doesn't work, just because I've been in the situation where this doesn't flow, this is not working. So I've literally walked through this with my hands just to make sure we haven't missed anything. We will do weddings mostly, but we also, before had talked to the school district to see we can host, it's going to be, we're advertising at 200 people. We could get more in if we didn't have to have a dance floor, and we did valet parking. But there could be school events there There could be community events there. It's just going to be a beautiful, it'll be a more of a hill country type wedding. Setting, I'm sorry. And so it'll be the Austin stone and the wood and the black windows trimmed, and it'll be a very beautiful building. The guy that built the town next door, the one next door, is my architect, Ken. So he's really good. So we're excited about all that. So do you want to ask me a question? I don't know what else to tell you about it. It's about $2.8 to $3 million project, if that helps.
I know you said this already, but I missed
Okay.
it. What is the building on the front of the property going to be?
It's the tallest office space, the State Farm building.
Okay.
Ben Tullis bought the property from us back when we sold it, and he's building a 10,000 square foot office space there. And his son is the State Farm agent over off of Collins, Houston, and he is going to move into it. And then they're going to lease the other space. But Ben is also an investor in my company, so we have shared. Thing.
So the parking around that building that's shown on here would be used for your building as well?
Yes, we are applying for shared parking variance. I think we've talked to Charles about it. We will build some parking, but some of it is his. So it kind of works out good in a way, because we're just trying our best not to cut down any trees we don't have to. I just don't want to lose the whole country atmosphere by cutting down trees just to put cement there. So off of he's there, Monday through Friday, and we're there on the weekends. So, and he's there during the day, and we would most of the evening. So we don't feel like there'll be any problem with that. And he agrees to it.
So the sight lines for the events there would all be pushed towards the back of the property, so people wouldn't be renting and looking at the.
We wouldn't be looking
The
at
State
80. We
Farm
wouldn't be looking,
office.
right. And his building will look similar to ours as far as materials he uses to build with. Because like I said, we are using the same architect. So it'll look like it belongs. It just won't be. Does that make sense? I want it to look like it all belongs there, even though we don't use his building.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll be, but the land really slants once you start going down. So we're below him. I mean, we're kind of down. So I think it'll be good. Plus, it'll be a good buffer for sound, because once he builds his building there, we won't hear as much 80, which is that has always been my only drawback of this land, was that it was right on 80. But then it far outweighs the conveniences, because when I drive out into the middle of nowhere to deliver a wedding cake on a bumpy road, I just keep thinking this is ridiculous. So I think it will far outweigh the benefits of being able to get there. You'll feel like you're in the country once we're down there, because it will have all the trees and it'll be real rustic looking down there, but it'll be a very elegant building. It can be used for many, many things.
Will the elevation have a barn look like the old one?
It
So
will
it'll
not be
be
barn
more like
anymore.
next door?
No, it'll be like a hill country look. We'll have a metal roof, and we'll have the Austin stone, and it's going to be a 1-story. The original barn I was doing was a 2-story. This is a 1-story. We're using a lot of windows, the black frame windows, the big doors. Everything's just going to be very open. A lot of light, a lot of looking out into the trees. So both of the groom's room and the bride's room both have a private patio attached to them, and we laugh at that. The groom's room, because they're having a roll-up garage door thing, so they can go out on the patio and watch the game or whatever happens to be happening that day. So, and then below, towards the bottom, is a terrace. It'll be grassy space. We're not sure if we're going to make it tiered or kind of keep it even. I think depending on what space we have to do an outside ceremony, once we get out there and get it all marked and make sure we're not cutting down a big group of trees. And there is a creek. It's not on that. It's on the plat. It's a dry creek that runs through the property. And so we will be cleaning that out and making, sorry, I'm fighting a sinus infection, making that a feature. Well, it'll have a pump in it, and it'll have some rippling sounds and just some things like that. Yeah.
So how far west of the property line is Long Creek? Do you know?
The actual creek?
Yeah.
It's on the other side. Well, it's okay. See those dotted lines going up? That's the sewer line off of the map.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So which is west? So
Yes,
going that way
west.
is west. So is it
Walked back there, but
on the adjoining property?
it's on the adjoining. It's the one that belongs to the Cashes, because I originally bought this from Paul Cash.
I was just curious where the floodplain starts.
Yeah, floodplain is the dotted line. So we'll have to build up probably one end of our corner, but I've gone out there for the last few years when it's just really, really rained. And it has a natural flow,
Okay, that's where it is.
and it flows down to the original creek.
That's the reason I'm bringing it up is I hear people say there's forest there. It's always going to be forest. And you're like, not necessarily. So,
It can be built
but
up.
if it's, since it's in your property and then it's floodplain immediately across the property line,
I think we're okay.
unlikely somebody's going to deforest it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and it's a very thick forest. I've walked it. I've been over there, but it's been a while. So
Right.
It was with Mr. Cash, the older gentleman, and it was 100 and something degrees in July. So I don't remember much about it. So, but anyway, I think it'll bring a lot of people to Sunnyvale. You know, we can have 200 people there every weekend, 3 different times. So that, 600 people that maybe have never heard of Sunnyvale. So it's going to bring people to, now that y'all are building restaurants and the gas station and maybe someday a hotel. I can't tell her. Just things that I think it would really benefit people to be, because I know I've talked to Forney about it. I mean, there's a lot of little communities around that I think would use it for different things, even not just when we can do corporate events. It's going to be totally wired for all kinds of sound speakers. All of that stuff's going to be built in, all that. So it'll be a very useful building.
So then your projections on page 5 of this are your sales tax numbers. So you're looking at
Yes.
roughly $500,000 in year 1, and then
And I don't have that in front of me.
good
so.
growth moving forward year over year. So
Yes, our proposals are well. I have I'm already approved with Texas Security Bank for my bank loan. I have an SBA loan already approved that I had approved last time, and it lasts for 5 years, which was amazing. So I'm getting to reuse that. And I have three investors, me counting is 4. That will be helping.
then other than yourself, how many, so 4 full-time equivalents?
Yes, we will start with 4 full-time, but there'll be tons of weekend jobs, like for
Yeah, a lot of contract.
a lot of contract labor, just people, because staff with kitchen and serving, and need boys to do tables and unload tables. And I used to do all that stuff. I don't do it anymore. So we'll be able to have a lot of people employed, not on a complete full size, but hopefully by the next year we'll need some more full-time employees.
And then you mentioned your florist that's there. Again, it's more for in-house use.
It's more for in-house, and she has her own business where she decorates people's houses at Christmas and things like that. That's her personal business, so she'll keep doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, we're not coming in to be the new florist, and because I love Kathy, so we're not going to do that. So
But whatever you do out of there will be as part of that 531, or is that additional?
that will be additional because the florist was added after we kind of did all those numbers.
Okay.
So we talked about it, but weren't really sure. And then we got doing the plans. We thought, yeah, we can build this space because she'll have her own space, her own cooler. Flowers will be delivered right there. So it's going to be a really good setup for her. Because she's one of these that's done it out of her home. And if you do anything out of your home, it gets old after a while. So she's excited. And I think it'll be a big asset.
So instead of just being a staging area, it's an actual business that,
Yeah, she will
Contributes
lease.
to the-
I already talked to the SBA and the bank about it, and she will actually lease the space from me. And we'll do that for the first few years, and then we'll renegotiate and see. Because I don't have any idea what her income. We're unsure. But she's quitting her full-time job to come do it, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. She'll be good. It'll be fun.
last time around, you talked about doing other catering,
Events.
catering out.
Yes,
Is
and we
that-
can still do that because that's one thing about having the full kitchen. I will have a full kitchen staff. It won't just be me anymore. So one of the full-time employees will be the person that runs the kitchen, even though I'll still be doing some. But
Preferably, you'll keep them busy on site, but if
yes, but they can
have
go
the
off site
availability,
easily.
you can cater out, and that's also taxable.
And we can do all kinds of stuff. If people want to come pick up, we've talked about people coming picking up meals. Like we can do our Facebook page or whatever, and say we've got this tonight. Do you want to come? Order if you want to come pick a casserole up or whatever. I just think it'd be kind of neat for people because there's not a lot of options over here usually.
And the last question is,
Uh-huh.
Is there going to be a liquor license, or are you going to have somebody else that does that?
It's not a liquor license. They bring their own, but I hire a bartender. There has to be a licensed bartender and security on site. And they have to carry the whoever's renting it has to carry the insurance on that. I have insurance that will cover it, but it's not my big. I will not sell liquor. Let's just put it that way.
So my question then is the taxation goes to whatever entity is
Wherever
and
they
whatever
buy it,
town they're
yes.
from, as opposed to coming through Sunnyvale.
Does Sunnyvale sell liquor? I don't know.
Kearney's, I mean, there
Well, in
depends on
Kearney,
where
yeah.
you.
I mean, restaurants do, but there's not, like in Raleigh, every corner, we've got a liquor store.
Correct,
It
but I
seems
mean, a
like.
business like a
Yes.
Kearney's or something,
Yes.
if you went to
They
that
would not be
level, you
selling
could,
that.
and then you
No.
could.
It would be the food and the cakes and then all of the rental stuff we do and then the flowers and things. So, but we hope to get a lot of catering. We will let people bring in an outside caterer if they wish, just because I don't want to be that venue that won't let you do anything you want, within reason. But we're hoping that they'll see the option that we're easier because we're right there and your food doesn't travel, your cake doesn't travel, your flowers don't travel. It's much easier, a lot less confusion on the day of the wedding. I'm hoping they'll foresee that as being positive. Anything else? It's been through the city council and everything. I mean, we'll be going through again, but I mean, we have talked to all the neighbors. We're good with all the neighbors. So I think we're okay. Anything else? Mhm.
Neat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Next is discuss future agenda items and events. So the fireworks are now in October. So that was a bummer.
Yeah, it'll be part of National Night Out. That was our backup plan.
Mhm.
So he was actually briefing me today. He has a lot planned for that event. So it should be a really great community event.
So if you didn't know, if you got stuck in the mud, it wasn't the weather forecast, because it turned out great weather. It was. Any other future agenda items that from last month? I know Kay Paul had requested we talk about, it's in the minutes, what the project was over here on. We don't have it in the agenda, so
We included it in the update.
that's right. Good point. Barring anything anybody wants to add, we'll move it on. So can I get a motion to adjourn into executive session? Here in a minute, let me read it. So we will recess into executive session pursuant to Chapter 551, Subchapter D of the Texas Government Code, Section 551.087, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect, Project Panther, separate Project Barn. Motion made by member Bradford, seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? We'll move into executive session at 6:16 p.m. reconvene out of executive session at 7:04 PM. No action taken. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion made by member Bradford, seconded by member Anthony. All those in favor? We adjourn at 7:04 PM. Thank you.